as the government moves to China to ask for more loans. Is there justification in light of the massive scandals bedeviling the Jubilee government? My guests put this in context, even as Kenyans say no to the housing levy, which has yet again exposed the inconsistencies in the government's explanation, even as Huduma number registrations come closer to you. On Toonside, a reaction on an artistic impression, and on Timebar, we take you back in time to the period when William Ruto and Raila Odinga will take a bullet for the other, literally. But first, it's my take tonight, and we seek to add our voice to the housing levy and the rush to implement it. The government is once again on the spot for pushing down the throats of Kenyan taxpayers what it considers to be a noble initiative. Granted, decent housing is desirable and has the support of everyone. We note that the Labour Court temporarily stopped its implementation to allow for the consolidation of various suits challenging it. At least three organizations, that's the Federation of Kenya Employers, the Central Organization of Trade Unions, and the Consumer Federation of Kenya, have filed suits against that very levy. Now, the Universal Housing Scheme is expected to be funded through a 1.5% deduction from every salaried employee, with employers matching another 1.5%. Now, this has raised eyebrows because the government seems to be in a rush to collect a projected 57 billion shilling. That is at stake. The 57 billion shillings is no pocket change, and the government should have by now summoned all its powers of persuasion to convince stakeholders that the investment is worth their money. That is not, or that this has not been explained or done. The resistance that has greeted the hurried implementation of the initiative and the trust gap arises from several concerns. Foremost, the program has not been explained well to the shop stewards level to get to the workers to buy in. Employees are expected to match an employer's contribution, but they are yet to be engaged fully on what is certainly an added cost of doing business. And second, the transition from a contributor to a homeowner is not clearly defined. On paper, private developers will build houses and sell them to the government for amounts ranging from 600,000 to 3 million shillings. A lottery thereafter will determine which applicant is allocated the house, with those who miss out eligible for cashbacks. Now, distributing houses by chance, given our experience where resources are allocated through corrupt, who knows who, and other dubious criteria, is unlikely to win the confidence of the workers. And similar fears have been raised by developers who believe several favored investors have front-run to the scheme and have plans ready for execution as soon as the deduction from the workers start. And mega corruption, which has bedeviled government initiatives undermining citizen benefits, cannot be wished away. In our view, to get broad buy-in for this initiative, the government should stop proposed deduction until the courts rule on the pending cases, and the implementation should be detached from President Uhuru Kenyatta's 2022 exit. The last thing that taxpayers want is a housing fund going the path of planned, just like the National Social Security Fund and the National Hospital Insurance Fund. Our quote of the day is summed up in 6 words from Winston Churchill: the price of greatness is responsibility. My guests tonight, Dr. Njoki Ngumi, Professor Alfred Omenyo, Joshua Kutunyi, and Didmus Barasa. My name is Ken Mijungu. Welcome to our program tonight. Join the conversation at NTV Kenya, at Ken Mijungu. The hashtag, as always, is Sidebar.
Kwani hawa watu ambao wanatuambia saa hii story mingi, kwani sisi hatuwajui?
We shall vigorously defend the unity of our party Jubilee.
Ni watu ya kubomoa. Kama hawabomoi chama, wanabomoa nyumba. Kama hawabomoi nyumba, wanang'oa reli.
Mtokeze na washike microphone kama mimi na waseme hautaki William Ruto tena, sisi tutafikia.
Kama hawang'oi reli, wanatenganisha marafiki. Sasa hii watu ambao tunawaelewa, alafu we are entertaining them for what purpose?
Tumemkaribisha, lakini siku ya ugeni imeisha.
Also gives me ideas that enhance something and make it even better. Lakini bado huko watu Raila anavunja Jubilee. Where do we talk about Jubilee? We talk about huko.
Right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. And let's begin the discussion. And a good point to begin is that statement by William Ruto. And it has 4 areas that I want to talk about. He talks about destroyers, he talks about party spoilers, he talks about destruction, uprooting the railways, and of course, splitting friends. We know what's happening in Jubilee imminently. They say the Jubilee party has split. Let me begin with you. You are seen as Team Tanga, faction of Jubilee Party. This confirms that the party has inevitably split. That's why you have a faction, 2 factions, right?
Not really. You know, from where I see it's not a faction. This is a mainstream Jubilee. But we have a small group of people who have formed a caucus, a lobby group or a movement to stop the deputy president from being president. And you see, real men will form a lobby group to campaign for themselves or to campaign for their candidate. But cowards, men who are more or less like women of 19th century, because a modern woman has transitioned, will form a group to stop their fellow group.
Who are these people? Who are you referring to?
It's a group called Kieleweke. It's a small group of people that who are being puppets of a senior government officer from office of the president. That are being given small money to move around some parts of this country over the weekend, undermining the deputy president. And I want to tell them that if they are men enough, let them campaign for their candidate. Because ideally, I'm a Christian. There is no way God can involve himself into bringing another man's down. God is involved in advancing a vision of a common good. So these are people who are driven by the devil.
Okay. I'll speak to Mheshimiwa Kutuny. Mheshimiwa Kutuny, no doubt you have been very critical about a lot of things happening in the Rift Valley. And by the way, you're seen as a renegade MP from the Rift Valley just because you don't conform. So perhaps you're one of the people that Mheshimiwa Didmas is referring to.
You know, I want to tell my friend that Jubilee is divided. And Jubilee is divided in terms of ideology. The Jubilee on our side that is led by Uhuru Kenyatta, advocate for transparency, accountability, fighting corruption, bringing Kenyans together. The Jubilee on the other side, the Tanga team, their motto is divisive politics. And you've heard it from the master himself. Profiling communities in this country. The other group of Tanga, they are perpetuating corruption. And they are fighting efforts by the government to fight corruption. The other side of Jubilee, the Tanga, they are intimidating institutions that are fighting corruption. DCI, DPP, yet they are in government. So that is the point of departure. And when you bring the issues of Rift Valley, today, Raila has been in government only for 10 months.
Raila has said he's not in the government.
I want to put it in that way. His association with Uhuru Kenyatta has been there only for 10 months. But they see the goodies that is going there. We've been in government for the last 76 months. If it means being a renegade, by pointing out the failures by the people in system, their failure to help the people from the rift, the farmers were not paid, the fertilizer, we can't access it today. Those are the issues that we are advocating for.
Okay.
So this is a clear group of people or leaders who mean good for the country and for the leaders who are applying dictatorial tendencies. And by the way, on this statement that the deputy president that have issued, and I don't understand that he forgets so easily that we had post-election violence in 2007. And it is the statements of that kind that caused havoc in the country.
Okay.
So then desperation of leadership, you cannot be too desperate to go to an extent where you can profile some communities, yet you want to be the leader for a nation.
Before Dr. Ngomi speaks and Professor speaks, I'd like to play that soundbite, then I'd like them to comment about this. Is it ethnic profiling or is it just an individual being profiled? Let's take a look.
Kwani hawa watu ambao wanatuambia saa hii story mingi, kwani sisi hatuwajui? Sisi tunawajua. Ni watu ya kubomoa. Kama hawabomoi chama, wanabomoa nyumba. Kama hawabomoi nyumba, wanang'oa reli. Kama hawang'oi reli, wanatenganisha marafiki. Sasa hii ambao tunawaelewa, alafu we are entertaining them for what purpose?
I'm more interested in the last part, but I just want your view of that statement, Dr.
I mean, first of all, say how immensely boring and out of touch party politics are to the everyday issues of Kenyans. He's talking about farmers who've not been paid. The list of people who've not been paid for things in life in this country is so exhaustingly long. And so for us to now become, like we are now taken as a country in Todo Sobre, Kenya, where we are now all concerned with the paranoias and back and forths and backstabbings within a very tiny and elite group, for me saddens me deeply. It's deeply disappointing. So, like, honestly, I'm not really interested in any party. I'm not interested in the factions amongst them. I'm interested in membership drives. I'm interested in the idea of ideology. I think it's very deeply false that any party has a strong ideology as far as ideologies go. In Kenya, are we progressive? Are we centrist? Are we leaning conservative? Why? What matters to the people of Kenya? As we are now 9 years post-constitution, where are we going? What do we want to go? Where do we want to be? What do we want to achieve? Okay. We've seen that somewhat in party manifestos. We've seen that somewhat, again, in development plans, multiple development plans, again, because we are anywhere in between AU 2069, Kenya Vision 2030, Big Four, and any number of other things whose hybrids we are now living in. And so when we now start dealing with Mheshimiwa A talking about factions and Mheshimiwa B saying there is faction A and faction B and they operate differently, I'm like, all of those mechanisms of actions are not interesting to me. What is interesting to me is things like, are we catching the people who are stealing our money? Are we members of parties and why? When it comes to party nominations, are everyday Kenyans taking part in those things the way they should be? Okay. And this is actually the time we should be building up party politics so that they can be strong and we're not running on the streets during nominations to get people to come in and vote for the candidates that then sublime onto the ballot paper. So as far as parties are concerned, I'm not interested at all in their mechanisms. Okay. That being said, I think we are used to people with microphones at every level. We see it in the church, and that's why I'm not interested in singling out the deputy president. Because the things he's saying, everybody says them. People say them in radio stations, people say them in the church, people say them
Doesn't he have greater responsibility as a deputy president of a country?
Why should he have greater responsibility?
Because he's the deputy president of a country.
Then if he has greater responsibility, we hold him to greater account and we should be asking him harder questions. Okay. But are we going to do that is the question then.
The question again is, how then do we avoid politics? And yet even the fact you're talking about, we should be investigating.
No, you're not listening to me. I'm not saying we avoid politics. Okay. I'm saying we avoid the trickery and nonsense of political party mongering, as opposed to focusing on the things that Kenyans really want to see moving forward. I'm not interested, for instance, and that you people as the media, you're the most culpable when we open the paper and we first see Jubilee, NAC, whoever, another party, 6 pages in, that's when you start seeing things happening to Kenyans or things happening for Kenyans. The other thing that you guys are fans of is disappearing money. This is the only country in which money disappears. Disappearing for what? Okay. Has money ever disappeared from your pocket? Vanished, as though voodoo has been done. That doesn't happen. So you're reporting speculative fiction, right?
But, okay, I'll ask you that question, but let me hear from Prof.
Yes, I think listening to that, you see the bankruptcy in political leadership. It's not unique to Kenya, but I think Kenya is reaching crisis levels. Because anybody in leadership, even myself as a leader in the community, as a leader in the profession and so on, the expectations that come naturally with that particular position. In Kenya, we have a situation where once leaders, where Shimiwas get elected, starting from the president, then the entire citizenry runs after them so that they don't steal from us, so that they don't cheat us, so that they don't lie to us, so that they don't consult us. So as citizens, we are spending a lot of time and energy trying to figure out the next tricks the leaders have to outmaneuver us, to steal from us, and worse still, to cause post-election violence. I mean, Kenya almost got into a genocide situation, and I don't take this lightly, honestly. I am actually one of those people who are totally against any tribalism in this country, and I practice it at a personal level.
But is it? Was it tribalism?
Yes, it was. It was very, very clear when we were talking about who uprooted the rail. It was the Luos. I mean, that is how it was profiled in the media, and the deputy president is speaking to that directly. I think that's totally unreasonable. And secondly, the perception really that is being pushed is that you know, there are two communities in power, so they've got a right to loot and to rape the country. It is wrong. It is not actually the right position. Those who are in leadership must rally the whole country together. Those who are in leadership must rally those who voted for them and those who did not vote for them. Those who are in leadership must actually deal with these issues that we're talking about. Lock up all the thieves who are stealing our money. As a taxpayer, feel angry at a personal level. Some of those same leaders feel like the money that is lost is nothing. And I think this part of the problem with this country, that we assume that immediately you get into a position of leadership, then you've got a license to commit any crime that, you know, that is in the book, from theft to rape, all the way to genocide, and you'll get away with it. We must hold our leaders to account. Our leaders must also hold themselves to a higher standard.
Okay.
Ken, you know, we are slowly converting this country into a rumor-mongering country. When every day we open our mouth and we are saying money is lost where? You know, today, I can only say that money was lost in the transaction of the Roraka land because I've seen a report by the Auditor General, and that he has indicated clearly that money was lost. But when we confirm every day, we appear like we are a rumor-mongering country. Every day we are saying money is lost here. If you look back in the last 6 or 7 months, we were told a lot of money was lost in SGR. A lot of money was lost in the free primary education laptop programs, but we don't see a report. So we must mature to a level where we can only confirm that yes, money is lost in this department because we have seen a report by a competent authority.
If somebody comes and loots from you and there is no report, will you say there was no theft?
But you see, you cannot come on the national TV and say we have lost money. We have lost money where? And based on which report? You will be a rumor mongering, and I mean, you know, when you are a professor, you are a person who is respected in academia. You're supposed to make tangible.
With all due respect, you're the one who's actually advancing rumors because you're saying money was not lost.
Where
is your proof?
You must point out.
I'm particularly interested.
Where is the money? This money is lost.
Anyway, in the thing he said about the Auditor General gave a report that said money was indeed lost. For me, the word I'm querying is lost. Mm-hmm. National money doesn't get lost.
It doesn't get lost. That's
no.
That's like coins have dropped from some
can't find them.
state pocket.
So what happens?
That doesn't happen.
Okay.
No, it happens because in this report, same piece of land was bought by the same government more than 3 times.
So now, my interest then is what has been done to make sure that things like that don't happen again, and what has been done to make sure that the person who came and bought the second time and the person who came and bought the third time, we know them, we know their names,
but my discussion,
these things are tangible, and that's my point. Money getting lost is like a speculative fiction, but the things as far as money moving is a documentary.
What should we say about money that we can't account for?
That it was stolen.
It's stolen.
Oh, so we said it was stolen.
Correct.
No problem.
Let me hear from.
But you can only say money is stolen if you have a report and you have evidence.
So we have to wait for the report. We have to wait for a report.
Otherwise, which sources are you basing on to say money?
So if the money isn't there, it's just not there. Then what do we say? It's not there.
How?
What then do we say? I would like to.
For example, you see,
Mheshimiwa, I would like to hear your suggestion.
After money had been allocated to a particular state department, then you can only confirm that this money is lost after an audit being done. But you cannot be walking on the streets attending a funeral somewhere, then you say that the money in the Ministry of Education is lost.
Do you feel
based on the
Mheshimiwa, is your point of view therefore that people are on the way to funerals, then they decide to tell us that money was lost.
At what point?
That's what happens.
Can I hear from Mheshimiwa Kutu?
You know, Professor, my good professor, let me talk to, Mheshimiwa, the language that you are trying to use is the language which is meant to protect corruption. The statement that you are trying to raise is a statement to praise corruption. We should call thieves by the names. The country has institutions, and when investigation starts, give room for those institutions to conclude the investigations. 2, as a leader, you should not shy away about talking about corruption. You should not tell us the corruption is being refilled in this way. You should say there is corruption here. So then institutions will investigate. That is why you are a public servant. That is why we are members of parliament. We are whistleblowers. We are not there to defend the corrupt. So the person who is trying to use that kind of a language could either be a perpetrator or a beneficiary of corruption. This country, we need to raise the bar higher. It should not be an issue of trying to intimidate the government, because the language that some people are using is to intimidate the government, not to investigate. And that is why I say we've got factions in this country.
You see,
we've got the people who benefit from corruption.
Ken, I want to give you an example.
Let him finish.
Yes, let me finish. Yes. When you raise even the issue like the one for Waraka, it was a whistleblower who brought it to Parliament, and it was investigated up to where it is today, where you are talking about credibility by PAC. But it was brought. Even at that time, many people will have dismissed it. But see what is happening. The issue of maize. People have been taken to court. We raised it. People thought it was a hot hair. People thought we were going after someone. But we knew some people had participated in importation of maize. We knew some people had participated in this corruption on the maize issue. Right now, quite a number are in court. So anybody trying to bring another language to cover the investigation is a perpetrator or a direct beneficiary of corruption. That is how you can describe these leaders.
Yeah, I just had a quick word. I really liked Mheshimiwa's choice of words as regards low bars. I think that a public servant whose sole job is to be a whistleblower is the lowest of bars, because your work should not be blowing whistles. Your work should be serving the people of Kenya and delivering as far as deliverables are concerned, whether it is Big Four, whether it is Agenda 2030, whatever agendas that we may be following at any given point in time. And so I don't believe that the work of an MP should be whistleblowing in a context where we have countless institutions whose mandate, whose sole job it is to root out this corruption. Either it is that these institutions are purposely made inert and impotent, or that, that for some reason.
But actually, with all due respect, I mean, Parliament is the biggest oversight institution for government expenditure in the country. So, I mean, is the role of the parliamentarians to raise any issues about corruption in government?
I agree.
About expenditure in government?
I agree.
In fact, is their job. And that includes blowing those whistles.
But the thing that I'm saying is that we cannot focus on their sole job being following money, looking for money. You see what I mean? Because they owe their constituents deliverables. A lot of them campaigned on certain grounds. They said, I am going to do this and this and this and this. There are people in this country who've been promised water since we got independence, and it has still not arrived at their homes. They have been promised electricity. They have been promised ETC. Some people were getting their first supermarket this year, and we were there saying a first supermarket. Nobody should have been cutting ribbons. We should have been crying outside. You know what I mean? Some people don't have their school. Some people, you see. So when we are here chasing...
It's not mutually exclusive. I mean, they must chase the money.
I agree.
They must also ensure the government delivers.
It's part of their job.
But that's why I'm saying that is a low bar.
Let Daktari finish, then we come back.
That's why I'm saying that that's a low bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, a low bar.
An extremely low bar.
Okay.
There are two things. A member of parliament who's a rumonger will go rumormongering in funerals and on the roads if he's not sure that whatever whistle is blowing will lead to nowhere. Will lead to nowhere. But a person who understands that money is being stolen somewhere and you are whistleblowing objectively, you will raise it on the floor of the House, and the Speaker will form a relevant, will direct a relevant committee to carry out, some kind of a quasi-judicial investigations. So this is why I'm saying that what Honorable Kutuni is advocating for this, what the president said, vigilante justice, where you look at somebody because you don't like him, because you have some particular differences, then you say he has stolen money. So we must move away from that kind of vigilante.
Well, technically, that's neither vigilante nor justice. That's rumor mongering.
Absolutely, that is how it is.
And let me help him. Right. When we raised the issue of maize, for example, we brought it even to the House.
But which is fine. You raised, people were arrested. The matter in court.
Investigation was done, and people are in court now. So I want to remind Mheshimiwa that as much as you're trying to use different languages, but the bottom line is that the statement that is coming from you is a statement that is characterized by, or someone, it describes someone who is beneficiary of corruption, someone who doesn't want investigation to be done. I want to appeal to you as a member of parliament, and then I want to answer Daktari. Daktari, you say that members of parliament should not be, we've got manifesto. For example, now Kimwarer Dam, it was going to benefit quite a number of people.
Correct.
Do you want the members of parliament from that region or leaders from that region to keep quiet when there is interference,
Mheshimiwa, I think
when there is corruption? So we must be very careful when we talk about how to identify and how to bring forward issues of corruption.
Mheshimiwa, I think
allow Kenyans, in fact, we should allow Kenyans to talk about this corruption. Leaders should rise up to the occasion. We should not fear. We should say there is corruption here, so then it is followed. It is better for investigation to be done, and then the conclusion is that you are not corrupt.
Okay.
Then you will be let free.
Yes. Ken,
Daktari wanted to say something before
I
you
just want to
respond.
challenge my good friend here, that tomorrow morning, let him go to DCI, or let him go to EACC, and report, because when he appears on TV, he seems to talk too much about people who have stolen money from government. You know, but I want to challenge you, that's the way the president said. Go to EACC, go to DCI, and report those things that you are saying, those people that you are saying, that you are insinuating they have stolen money. Otherwise, you should close your mouth and shut up. And just
Mheshimiwa, is this the same DCI that the faction that you support in the Jubilee Party stood and told off and told to leave the war fighting corruption to the EACC? Is this the same DCI you want him to go to?
You know, I've told him to go to, I've given him options. But the reason as to why we said DCI is manipulable is because the same energy that they have used to withdraw security for members of parliament, you know, it's the same energy that those who manipulated them. That is how it is. Because how do you withdraw security from a member of parliament without communicating with that person, even if you are restructuring?
I think that was explained adequately.
No, but I'm just saying that it was not explained adequately. It was National Police Service was being manipulated to serve certain political interests.
They're not here to
the same way they were manipulated, the same
because
way
they had a press conference
the DCI were being manipulated.
There was you know, there's been this discussion about corruption, and nobody has said that so and so are stolen. But you find some faction in government who are trying to fight this war against corruption. So who is saying that you have stolen? It is only the guilty who are always afraid, who shout from the rooftop. So we are telling them that they should hold their horses.
Okay.
If this is where they've been benefiting, and the president seems now to be fighting corruption, and perhaps maybe the handshake has given his impetus, they should look for something else to do.
Okay.
Because Kenyans, they are not ready to entertain those kind of leaders.
Yeah, I think maybe three things. One, I think, Mheshimiwa, you misunderstood me. I said it was a low bar. I didn't say that people shouldn't chase all the coins that have disappeared, or notes, or stacks, all of them. I just said that as opposed to delivering to the people who were promised things, it's an unfortunate use of time. The other thing is that I think we should probably discuss the housing levy at this point in time. Otherwise, we'll circle.
Wait, but I need a last one. We are taking a break.
Circle around
We need a last one from the group before we discuss
and
the
Kenyans
housing
want
levy.
to discuss that.
Yes,
So.
housing, yes. Prof.
My position is very simple. Corruption is in the public domain. And Mheshimiwa, I don't agree with you. Any matter in the public domain, I don't think you can actually come and tell people that the only time you can discuss it is when you've arrested the thief or something like that. This is a concern of every Kenyan, and it should be discussed in every village, on every street, in the marketplace. It should be discussed everywhere. In Parliament, it should be taken to China if that's where it has to end. It is our concern, is our taxes, Mheshimiwa. It is our taxes that are being stolen. And we must feel bad enough about it. And corruption will bring this government down, actually. It can't bring this government down. It's services. It is children dying in hospitals. It is me being asked to send M-Pesa for, to treat people whose money has disappeared in government. So you will not gag us. You will not gag me as an individual. I don't belong to any party. You will not gag me as an individual. You can tell me that the rumors, but I don't care. I will continue discussing those rumors for the rest of my life. I've got a concern for many being
ladies and gentlemen, do you realize we didn't even discuss about the comments?
Well, let me just make some small comment
Yes,
in
because
about
I have to
5
take a break.
seconds.
Yes.
This is from a citizen.
You know,
I know.
When I've said that
take 5
we
seconds.
should stop rumor-mongering about corruption.
Yes.
For example, in the last 3 years, if you look at the amount of money the rumor-monger has said this country has lost, then you will wonder
Heading to
whether
60B.
then you will wonder whether Uhuru Kenyatta was presiding over government or a casino where people come to gamble.
Okay.
Go away with money.
Your 5 seconds
You
is done.
will ask
Moish.
some kind of
Your
question.
5 seconds is done. Time now for a short break. We still have a lot to discuss, right? When we come back, I'd like to touch on one more time, because Kenyans are really concerned about the comments from the Deputy President. Dr. doesn't want to hear about it, but I'd want your input, then we can move to the housing levy and discuss also about the Huduma number, because Kenyans are very skeptical when it comes to this. Time for a break. Sidebar will be back.
laundering money which has been corruptly acquired. And we cannot fight corruption if we do not fight its tentacles. Every weekend, this church 5 million, this other fund 5 million, other one 5 million, one weekend 15 million. And your salary is only 1 million per month. And in the whole month, you donate 100 million shillings. And you don't even show us where these businesses are here.
And we are back. I'm sitting here with Dr. Njoki Ngumi, Joshua Kutui. I'm sitting here with Professor Alfred Omenya and, of course, Didmus Barasa. We're discussing a lot of things. But let me put this into context before we go back to it. Because Bernard Mukwevu says something, that Kenya is the only country that comes up with $1 billion plus shillings farm, but no crops are grown. Build $1 billion plus shillings dam that stores no water, steal public funds and say nothing was stolen. No people who steal the funds, but arrest none. Shame. I think he puts it into context. And as we conclude this, I know Dr. Njoki, she doesn't want to speak about this, but talk to us about how, because they're very outraged by that pronouncement from the level of a deputy president. So first, make it clear, was this hate speech or it was just another political rhetoric?
Let me say something before the Waheshimiwa who have a little more context into the person as a man can speak. My point was not that I don't want to discuss it. I just don't want us to pretend that these things don't exist in context.
Okay.
When we talk about one Kenya, when we talk about the unification of Kenya, that the breaking apart of Kenya along tribal lines is a project that began with ukoloni. And that the mending of us as a people transcends party, it transcends government. It is not a thing that we're going to achieve in one person's term for any reason, because the grievances are deep, severe, and that they've taken a very long time. And I worry about this responsibility that is given to one person to be the morals of the nation, right? And that this is not me defending the deputy president. I'm just saying that he's speaking in a context of people who speak like this. This speech is acceptable in many spaces. It is acceptable in churches. These things are said in vernacular. A lot of times they are hidden in different tribal languages and not said in English or Kiswahili. So people get away with saying very, very many odd, different, desperate and dangerous things. And so this idea that he's the problem, and then the rest of us can just kind of stand back and gasp. For me, we're hiding the real issue, and that the real issue is that we still have those feelings, we still have these issues, and that we've not solved them. And I wonder what will. Okay.
Understood. And Mheshimiwa, as you comment on that, I'd like you to also mirror in what the ODM leader is saying, because he says churches have become also conduits for money laundering, because most of the ill-gotten money is taken through the church. And I had a story about a church that is given 10 million and 5 million has to be deposited in the account of the person who gave it, then the money is washed. So as you comment about corruption and that language, perhaps you can also comment about that.
Okay, first of all, let me talk about the statement by the deputy president. You know, I come from a cosmopolitan constituency. And you know, my constituency was affected heavily by, you know, post-election violence. So when I listen to a leader of his capacity making such a statements like profiling a particular community, then I really sympathize with this country, with the leaders that we have. I want to remind the leaders who think that way, that they can get into power by using such a statements. This is outdated, primitive way of trying to popularize yourself. And then a professor put it very clear, bankruptcy of ideas is what we are experiencing now from some leaders. I expected the leader of his capacity to reach out, because you want to be, assuming you become the president and you make such a statement, such a reckless statement can put the country in turmoil. So now I want to appeal to the leaders that we must be very cautious of our statements. The leadership, and I want to, you know, to refer to what you had said earlier. You know, Daktari, leaders have responsibility of giving the society and the country direction. So the statement and the behavior of the leaders, it is meant to bring some characteristics to the citizens. So if the leader is the kind of a person who talks recklessly, then you will have also a country that where people talk recklessly. And I want to applaud the efforts of Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga through the handshake and building bridges, where they want to see the country coming together. So if you see a leader who doesn't want the leadership or the country to be together, because that statement also was trying to derail the handshake. Yet the handshake today, people are seeing the benefits. Okay. As in, the people of some regions could not visit some regions before the handshake. See the peace that we are experiencing in the country. But someone else is not comfortable with the handshake. So then that is why he's making such a statements. But I want to tell and to remind leaders of that kind that Kenyans are not fools. They are watching very careful the statements that are coming from you.
Okay.
So they must be cautious.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think I want to ask Kenyans not to take my good friend seriously. I say so because he has known the deputy president more than I do. When we went to the last general elections, I was in ODM, and I came into Jubilee towards the when elections were almost nearing, and the people welcomed me in Jubilee. Was among the people that welcomed me. We moved around with him. The words that he was saying for the deputy president, and those that he was saying against Raila Odinga, even after the repeat presidential elections, it's completely different. And you wonder, I will ask him, during that time when you were praising the deputy president and castigating Raila Amolo Odinga, had you left your brains at home or you had carried your brains? I mean, as leaders, honesty must begin with ourselves. That what I say today, I must be able to repeat the same after 6 months, after 1 year. Anything short of that, I think this cheapness is somebody who's stooping too low, is somebody that Kenya should not take seriously, because you wonder what has changed. Is the same Raila Odinga you are warning the people from this country from voting for? Is the same William Ruto that we are telling the whole country to support? Now, what has changed? Or have you now gone to a place where you have been given more knowledge? Or you...
Are you looking for a response from Mheshimiwa?
I want to ask him.
Are you looking for a response?
Has you can
happened? Defend yourself, because he says that's the language.
I was where he was. So I really don't want to respond to him.
Okay.
So many. That is psychophancy, characteristics of psychophancy, characteristics of people who are benefiting from corruptions that are being, the money that is being looted from this country. So then I don't want to refer to that.
Okay.
But I want to tell him that I was a member of parliament when post-election violence happened. So I have to be very cautious of a statement of that kind.
Okay.
Yes. Coming from a leader of that capacity. Yes. Okay. And I represent a constituency which is cosmopolitan. Yes.
Prof, final word on this. I think we need to actually shift gear from politics to leadership. Yeah, this country, and I insist, I don't know where we collect these fools from. This country is bereft, is a desert of leadership. We really don't have good leadership. There are very few good leaders that you can point at and say, look here, that one will get us somewhere. A lot of it is simply, positioning to benefit individually. And I wonder just how many cars somebody can drive and how many houses somebody can live in, or what for? I mean, we need leadership. Okay. We actually need leadership, and those are my final comments on this one.
All right, we're talking about the housing levy next, but I have a comment here from Steve Ogola, who is a regular in the program and an advocate. He sends me Article 95(2) of the Constitution that mandates Parliament to deliberate and resolve issues of concern to the people, and he mentions looting, corruption, ethnic profiling, and all that. So says progressive leadership must come from that. Let's talk about housing now, and first let's listen to the PS.
This housing fund was established in 1967 in the Housing Act Cap 117. And all we did was to operationalize this fund. Now the process of operationalization of the fund went through very intense public participation. Contribution confers a direct right to you. You either get a house. If you don't get a house and retire, you get back your money. 2, if you don't, the earlier of retirement of 15 years, you get back your money. In the process, you still retain the right on how that money is used. You can elect to assign that benefit or confer that benefit to your son so that when they come out of university, they have a degree and they have a house. Even in rural areas, we will still finance you because you still need to finance you to get a house. The contributions that you're making allows us to provide mortgages at 3% for those who are in the social housing. You spoke about categories. We have classified Kenyans based on income. So social housing earning less than 20,000, you get 3% interest, 25 years to pay.
Stemming from the outrage that we have seen since this was announced, it looks as though only PS Hinga is existing in this world and the rest of Kenyans are from utopia. Perhaps that's my thoughts, but let me begin with you, Njoki, again.
I mean, the biggest issue is that we seem to be, we are in a dispensation where we kind of rebooted our legal framework, but then we are here talking about relying on a 1967 something. So for me, that's deeply problematic because whether it's gone through public participation or not, should it not have been updated to the needs of now? The second thing is that the public education around this process has been profoundly lacking, because when we talk about a lottery, we have a framework for understanding lotteries. It's called Betim, it's called SportPesa. Okay? So now when we talk about a lottery as regards, or even Kenya Charity Sweepstakes. So when we talk about a lottery for a home that you are living in, but you also pay, but then also some people will be taxed, and that again already the vast minority of this country are the people who pay. So now to tax those people even more is going to be, of course, met with problems. Again, employers are like, excuse me, where is this money supposed to be coming from, etc., et al. So I think we need to see, there needs to be a little more thought put towards the idea of the benefits towards people who may not get these houses from this lottery process immediately. We've been promised many things, and that Kenyans, we're used to hearing promises. There's never been a people who are promised more things than us. Okay. Right? So in as far as the idea of you may one day get a house, I mean, it's the same as you may one day go to heaven as far as people are concerned. Again, we're used to thinking in 5-year terms. So when we talk about a son who may one day receive some money which may or may not translate into a house, we're dealing with too much probability. So it's a half times a what times a what that then gives you a 1 in 56 or 1 in 56 million chances of
even
doing
from what you're explaining.
So you're seeing, like, it sounds mixed up and dense and strange and ridiculous. And so this is what needs to be unpacked. So that Kenyans can understand it. The other thing who needs to do it? The people who want the proposers, the proposers need to do it. Okay. The other thing is that people need to be incentivized to give towards this thing. We're dealing with a trust deficit, and that the trust deficits are so deep that we don't even know how to unpack them. Again, I was saying that we have a framework for understanding how loans work. We are the same people who do Mshwari, we are the same people who do Fuliza. So when money is taken from us and then it gets lost, as we were talking about lost money as a thing, you know, this kind of voodoo situation we live in where money disappears, vanishes. So if money is then taken from us, then we don't see houses. We are again in the context where even in the private sector, and this is the same private sector that are also at loggerheads about the idea of cartels that are already existing as regards these houses, which again, nobody knows whether they are low cost or decent. Can they be both? We've not had that conversation either. Okay. Right? So there's many things that we need to unpack, and then just giving us a whole thing like this with multiple terms and conditions, and then we are told sign and let's move on. Impossible. Kenyans we've really moved past this place where we can just be kind of told bus, sign, and it'll be fine. People want to understand, and I think that need of Kenyans needs to be respected deeply.
Yes, I really don't want to undermine the government efforts or a government agenda. But perhaps maybe I will give my opinion about this issue. I think, you see, Kenyans are going through very difficult economic times. And, you know, putting a levy again on their, whatever little they are earning or their savings, actually it's going to make life very difficult for many Kenyans. Already there is a lot of taxations that have already been put in place, and Kenyans are paying. Already Kenyans are budgeted for their expenditure.
We're already paying loans.
And, you know, that's exactly what I'm saying. So additional, again, expenditure, additional levy to the workers for this country, I think at this time it is not prudent. Again, two, what exactly should government do? I think the people in the ministry should look for something better. Do we really need the low-cost housing, which the government is going to build? Or do we need the government to create an enabling environment where people, the economy can grow, people can borrow, and then people can also build houses, and then they can buy houses from the market.
Okay.
So I think what is important here is for the government to go back and to rethink. It doesn't even matter about the ruling that is going to be in court. The matter is in court, yes. We don't want to discuss about it. But I want to appeal to the government to think about it. Okay. At this economic situation, it is not.
Although nothing stops us from discussing it, that
Right.
it exists in
Yes.
court, because we're not discussing the merit.
Absolutely.
But let me speak to Prof. Prof,
Yes.
unpack this for us. Some
Yes.
argue that 1.5% is insignificant, and it's based on what you are earning, right? And it's about employed people. It's not about everyone. So unpack this for us.
Anyway, you can say 1.5 is insignificant, and then you can say the 5 for NSF is insignificant, then you can say all those insignificance, if you add them together, you'll end up with 70%, and you'll end up with no money to take home. It is the same donkey that you are getting pay from, the one that you're getting the fuel levy from, the one you're getting the rail tax from, the one you're getting NSF from, and so on, that is also contributing this 1.5%. But anyway, that one aside, I'll come to you, and the point you made that the PS is the one who seems to understand this, and it worries me when a government does not listen. When people outside there, people have gone to court. COTU was there, COFEC is there, FK is there. As professionals, we've said, look, this thing will not actually does not actually make sense, and so on. And government does not listen at all, basically pushing this down our throat. But to put this in context, what are we looking at here? If you look at the government program, the government proposal, on the first bit of it, government says we are going to incentivize these investors. So even the funder side, we are concerned about how much government is willing to give people that we don't even know. Government is saying, we'll give you land. Government is saying, we'll give you bank guarantees. Government is saying, we'll buy back the houses you build in case there's no market for them. Government is saying, we'll give you tax holidays. Who are these that government is giving all this to deliver the houses? We don't know. Meanwhile, we have got circles, we've got also fellows putting up houses. So anyway, we don't have a problem with that. On the other hand, government actually did commission KPMG to do a study on the housing deficit. Whom did government find? The government found there was 4.8 million people whose housing was inadequate. Who are they? These were largely homeless people. These were largely people living in very rundown rural settlements. These were people living in slums. Basically, that entire 4.8 million are not the working class. So why is government solving a problem that does not exist? The government's own study showed where the housing deficit was, and it was not in government employees. Yes, granted, there are a few that have bad housing condition. It was not in the permanent and pensionable employees of the private sector. So my position is very clear. Government is solving a problem that does not exist and actually avoiding a problem that exists. Number 3, the mechanism that government has chosen to solve this problem. Put a levy on the entire population and trick us that somehow we'll get a house. I've told the peers, and it's actually confirmed that, yes, you're going to levy this on 3 million people. Even now, if by some miracle government delivers 100% of the houses, which government will not deliver? Our industry cannot deliver those many houses. We don't have the capability to do it, even if the money was there. If by grace of God, government delivers 500,000 houses, that will only be 25% of those who are contributing. Of course, the PS has said, the houses will not need to be delivered Government has said, okay, fine. If you don't get your house, we will give you back your 1.5. And the employers are asking that, what about the 1.5 the employers are giving? What happens to it? It is the money that gets lost. as exactly were. And we're saying all contributory schemes, government, we only have one contributory scheme amongst recent housing policies. So that's the Nigeria one. They do 2.5%. All contributory schemes, everybody who contributes benefits. You're not going to tell me that I'll contribute for a house and maybe I'll benefit. So I'll be subjected to a lottery. And I keep telling people that the lottery, at the point when I'm subjected to a lottery, when I win, what do I get? Do I get a house? No, I don't get a house. I get debt. I get mortgage. The lottery only qualifies you to get a mortgage. It doesn't qualify you to get a house. And the mortgage you'll have to pay for differently. It is not the contribution you are making. And again, I've shown the PS, of course, and it's admitted on camera. I mean, if you're contributing 2,500, which is the lowest, you will take 111 years to have contributed 600,000. You can do the maths. It's very easy. It's very easy. 2,500 times 10 is how much? Is 25,000.
Times 2.
Multiply that by that is a year. Multiply that by 10 years. That would be that'll be 250,000. Yes. Correct. Yeah. So we've done the calculation. We've done the mortgage projection and so on. I think we'd use the 500. Yeah, which is the lowest. Yeah. So effectively said, you cannot, through that contribution, you can actually not get a house.
So it makes no sense.
The answer,
it makes no sense. That's what you're telling us.
The answer from the PS has been that, okay, you know, you can transfer this to your son,
to continue paying,
and your grandson. And we're saying, what irresponsibility? What is a mortgage? Mortgage is debt. Mortgage is debt. You are saying a child who's not yet born now, you are going to commit them to debt.
Okay.
Basically, what you're saying is that the government program, including its funding mechanism, does not make sense even to government.
Whoa. So in other words, it's impractical, it's impossible, exactly. It doesn't make economic sense and all. Let me hear from Wesh.
You know, I don't want to spend too much of my time thinking about whether it's a good or not. But I want to take you through the process of policy making.
Correct.
A policy is made to solve a public problem.
Correct.
One of the characteristics of a good policy is social acceptability.
Correct.
And the technical acceptability. Now, Kenyans are saying, we don't want this policy. So what the government should do is to terminate this policy.
Exactly.
Because they are making this policy for Kenyans.
Exactly.
So if Kenyans are saying, we don't want this policy, then if they will continue to force this policy on the throat of Kenyans, then I will smell a cash cow. Because you are already driven by personal interest to siphon money from public coffers, for individual interest, or we are driven for public good. But the public has said, we don't want this policy. So the government, what should do? They should terminate. But I also want to tell Kenyans not to take the PS seriously, because the PS, he cannot contradict his government. The PS is protecting the position that government has taken. So really, we don't, you don't waste time calling him in the studio to explain. He will basically be lying to Kenyans because he will be fired.
Okay.
If he can come here and say it's the wrong policy, he will be fired.
Okay.
The thing that's really interesting for me is what Prof said about a mortgage that your grandson will still be paying. And so, like the visual, there's nowhere in the world where you can talk about a mortgage that goes on for 3 generations, like a biblical curse. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that if, like, can you imagine compound interest at that rate for 111 years? What have you actually paid for that house? If you even get it. You know, and that you're supposed to feel lucky that you won a lottery. It's like fiction.
That's an insight I didn't understand. Actually, what he's saying, which I didn't understand, is that this contribution just qualifies you for the lottery.
Yes.
Once you qualify, then you start paying for it.
Yeah, once you qualify, then just like any other bank mortgage, you'll go there, they'll check your details, they'll tell you, yes, this amount we need for deposit, this is how much you'll be paying per month until...
But how comes then, on that point, the government says, if you don't qualify, we'll refund you money? If that's what it does.
No, but then how do you know that you've not qualified?
Because it's a lottery. I presume it's a huge basket with 600 names.
The point is that government says, the only time you'll know that you've not qualified is if you're retiring after, and you've contributed for 15 years. Otherwise, you keep appearing in the lottery. But anyway, even just from practical housing point of view, what are we asking from the Constitution? The right to housing. whom do we actually need to protect? Are you telling me that as a contributor to this, my housing needs is the same as that orphan child in Kibera whose mother is dead, who actually does not have a roof over their head and so on? You subjected us to the same lottery. Of course, in some conversation with the PS, he mentioned, he's dropped it since then, he mentioned algorithms. but I think because of the bad name of algorithms from the last election,
but even if they are saying that this is a voluntary contribution, it's not a tax.
Yeah.
And if it's a voluntary, then it means that it will be free subscription.
Exactly.
If I want to get a house, I get their form, I sign.
And we've advised government that, look here, there's so many people in this country, including your employees, who will be so happy with a 3% or even a 7% mortgage. Do a scheme. Let civil servants who wants to join it, give them that particular mortgage. They will actually get it. But why are you compelling this mother, who only has 1 or 2 years to retire, to make to actually make a contribution for a house they will not get?
Okay. Mheshimiwa Kutunyi, you've been very quiet on this.
Yeah, but I've just made my statement very clear.
Yes.
Because I say this is not the time to burden Kenyans.
Correct.
They are already struggling.
Okay.
And remember, even in the last parliament, the 10th parliament, I remember there was a report that was tabled in parliament. At that time, it was senior government officials who were accused to have allocated themselves houses.
Exactly.
In fact, remember, we have a scheme, national housing.
Correct.
We have even some houses that were constructed along Langata Road.
Correct.
And we are being told that those houses, they were taken by only 2 senior government, the whole block.
Yes. Even the one
yes,
at
and
State
it
House.
is in public domain.
And
so
even,
my issue here is, this is not a well-thought government program.
We forget about it.
You know,
that's
it
what
is
you're all
not- this
agreeing.
is what
we
I'm
forget
saying.
about it.
Yes.
We forget about it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about Huduma numbers. And before we talk about that, let's listen to this.
We are waiting for the 45 days to end. We will say, unless you have a Huduma number, you don't have a SIM card. So prepare yourself. And when we say it that way, it could be a polite order, but it is an order that is enforceable. So all the service providers who provide SIM cards, unless you have that Huduma number, you will not get a SIM card.
It is a very important thing because it will not only assist us on security matters, it will also assist us in service delivery. And of course, if you are not in NIMS and you are actually applying for a passport, then we know very well that you are not a Kenyan.
I don't think there is any reason to extend or to talk about an extension.
You know, I felt really threatened by the words of Wangusi right there. But just the fact that he could say that, of course, we know later it was retracted. Correct. And CK sent a statement. Correct. Denouncing what was said on camera. And at this point, this is the time they say that we were misquoted by the media. Yes. But it's so clear. That's the point he said, no, that's not what I said. I was misquoted. And the statement explained that the media took it out of context.
There's a video.
Yes, there's a video now. We played the video.
Yes. I know him very well. He's someone who comes from my area. And I know what he drinks. I was imagining that he was talking out of the influence of those things he drinks. Because we have the constitution.
Exactly.
That outlines parameters and how you can really call someone Kenyan or not Kenyan.
Exactly.
So unless he was drunk, you can't say those kind of things.
Okay.
I mean, the thing that confuses me the most is this kind of 3-cop situation that we've been put in, where there's the good cop who comes and tells you, bus, it'll be wonderful for you, we will have better services. It's like kind of leadership to a land of, it's that Canaan has become tainted now, and I don't want to be accused of leaning towards any particular party. That being said, that's the good cop. Then there's the neutral cop who comes and says, oh, this number is going to streamline government services. So like kind of the logical appeal that it's going to become easier to do X and Y and Z. You will have one harmonized number under which your ID, your passport, your driving license, whatever, and all these other documents that some Kenyans have, others don't have, whatever. There are still Kenyans in this country who don't have birth certificate, they don't have ID. There are people who go through difficult things just to get an ID because their name is a little bit strange, or on that day people are doing, it's Islamophobia Day in Nyayo House, or whatever it is, you know? So there's that. And then there's the bad cops, and they're the ones who come with the threats. So there's a WhatsApp message flying around diaspora Kenyans telling them, if you don't get this number, you will not be able to send money home. This other one has come and said, if you don't get this number, tutazima SIM card. I'm just like, listen, these messages, these 3 types of messages cannot be coming from one mouth. We don't live in an abusive household. This Kenya cannot be reduced to being an abusive household where daddy is in a good mood in the morning, a neutral mood in the afternoon, and comes home drunk at night, slapping everybody. So this can't be allowed to continue. And the idea that one government and the officials under one government can have a video of them saying a thing and then later say the one. How can you be misquoted? There's a video.
No, misquoted. We took it out of context, and straight after that was made, and there's a huge outrage on the social media.
The other thing is the lack of the regulatory framework that underpins this massive collection of data from Kenyans. Then there's the rumors, and that the thing with rumors is that for this one where they smoke, we've seen the MasterCard logo. We've had all these conversations around what other countries have done with this type of data when they've collected it. We've had all of these things, and then us we're just being told, bus in the morning, this is logical in the afternoon, and being slapped at night.
In fact, that issue of MasterCard has never been explained. But as you explained, Prof, same day, he's talking about government speaking the bad mood, speaking different languages, the good cop, the bad cop, and the rest. So Nzioka Waita, by the way, is highly ranked. He says, for the avoidance of that, Huduma number registration is voluntary exercise in compliance with the ruling of the court.
Thank you.
There is no directive from the government to institute any punitive measure against those who don't register. More emphasis will be laid on civic education. But I have a problem with this. The problem is this.
Let me just say one last sentence, just one. There's a thing that Mheshimiwa noted about the housing levy, where it was said to be a voluntary thing. And that again, here we find the same odd word, voluntary, popping up, again in the context of threats. So there are threats around the housing levy, and there are threats around this. At the same time,
I have a big problem with the way this kind of communication.
Correct.
If you are a senior government officer, you must communicate through
formally. You want a formal communication.
These are the people who are bringing confusion.
But my problem is this, before you speak, gentlemen, is they said we have 45 days, and last week a senior government official said the 45-day period will not be extended. That's something that is absolute. That's a must. He's telling you, if you don't do it, you will not get it. 45 days will not be extended for the registration. Then you come and say it's voluntary. This is oxymoron. It doesn't make sense to me.
But there was a court ruling, actually, on this matter.
Just suspending it. It's not indefinite.
No, it wasn't suspended. In fact, the court ruling allowed
the one for the civil society.
Yes.
But on a voluntary basis.
The one for the human rights and the Nubians.
Yes.
In fact, there were 3 cases, and it was very clear what the court had said. The issues were around data and data security. Another critical issue was denying a Kenyan citizen services because they don't have some number. And on the basis of those 2 issues of data and right to services, that is actually entrenched in the Constitution. The court then said government can proceed to register people on voluntary basis, but then the thinking was that there will be full ruling on this matter, but also that these particular conditions will have to be met. The conditions around data protection and the conditions around right to services linked to this Huduma number. But having said that, of course, I mean, so when you're hearing Wangusi and team, and like Mheshimiwa says, he knows what he smokes or what he drinks. These are people who, even forget about the government directive. There's a court ruling. The court ruling has given some very clear directives, and that yes, it can continue, but subject to some particular requirements. Secondly, Mheshimiwa, I mean, the government had purpose to introduce that NIMS bill in Parliament. I don't know its status. But if a situation where government proceeds, in fact, goes ahead of itself.
Without the bill?
Yeah, so without the bill, because a lot of these issues would have been dealt with in that standalone
just before
NIMS bill.
There is this that Kenyans have raised concern. about the security of the information that we are giving.
Correct.
The fact that a logo of a private company appears on that card.
What is the role of MasterCard on that card?
What is it supposed? Once their logo appears on a chip, then it means they are the one that they have access to this data.
Okay.
So this is a country.
And that they are private.
Yeah,
these are
private.
companies.
Private.
Yeah.
I think the discussion that we must be having about Huduma Center number is what are the benefits and what are the challenges. Why is it that this number has to be introduced? When you go to other jurisdictions, you don't need an ID, you don't need a passport, you don't need a driving license. But you see, here in Kenya, you're subjected to produce like 7 identification documents. Now, there are people who cannot carry their IDs all the time. Why don't we digitalize? When my Huduma number, I can access all government services. So then when I go to the airport, I don't have to produce
your passport.
Exactly. When I go to the hospital, NHIF, I don't have to produce the card for NHIF. So today you have someone who carries 5 cards, identification. So then we are telling government it is a noble idea. But in terms of introducing it to public, they got it wrong. I think public participation must be enhanced by this government in everything that they are doing. The same challenges that Huduma number registration is facing, the backlash and the challenges they are going through is the same challenges they're going through in the implementation of the issues of the housing.
Levy.
So I want to appeal to the government because it is a very good idea. You know, there is someone who has no education, but he's supposed to carry ID, all these cards to the hospital. But if he has a number, he has only to carry the number and he can access all the government services. So I want to appeal to the government that more civic education must be
because I don't think if it's a noble idea, it's something workable.
And that these two things have to go in hand in hand. The civic education as well as a robust regulatory framework that assures us, with our constitution as the base, that our data is not just going to be sold willy-nilly to anybody.
But
look at what happened to Facebook.
Ken,
with the data.
I already have a unique ID number. Why don't you use that ID number and you map together all these other things? I mean, I oversight this State Department, and they spend a whooping 8 billion. You know, we live in a country where a simple thing, some state officers driven by the desire to siphon money will create so many issues, so many lot of BQ. It's as simple as getting a university, a department of ICT, an ICT department of the University of Nairobi will map up all your NHIF numbers, NSSF onto your ID number. Your ID number is already a unique number.
What you're proposing will not allow. What you're proposing will not allow people to eat.
Absolutely. That's
the problem.
Here's the thing. I think what Mijungu is saying is a very valid idea.
It is.
And that
that's what happened in progressive
people are
world.
raising issues of design of this process, which is incredible. As far as we are concerned as Kenyans, we are profoundly interested in process. We are profoundly interested in what ideas have gone into making this thing going, and what do we then get at the outset. There's one thing that we are already all forced to have. So why don't we start from there? But then again, at the same time, if we work with ideas, there'll be close to 60% of the country. I don't know what the numbers are, but there's everybody under the age of 17 and people who are maltreated by Nyayo House will also not have IDs to
Mijungu will never get the right back home.
I want to tell Kenyans that you see, Ken,
never get the right back home.
There is something which Kenyans don't know. Immediately, Parliament approved this 8 billion. The function of registration of persons under the State Department of Registration of Persons and Border Control under General Kihalangwa. But immediately this money was allocated to Parliament, approved this money through budget. It was removed from Kihalangwa to Karaja Kibicho. You know, immediately overnight it changed to Karanja Kibicho. I mean, the problem with this, in fact, this is whistleblowing.
I mean, personally, for me, at least this money has moved budget lines, or it's changed from one Excel sheet to the next. It's not, as far as we are concerned, it has not evaporated. Has it been reported to have evaporated? And there are rumors that it has evaporated. As one of the oversight committee.
There's money, yes, exactly. He's gone full circle. You're back to us. It's back to us.
Go ahead.
That's why we should have begun. You're back
but
here.
But you see, I have facts, I have evidence.
Did we wait for investigation?
I'm not. At the back of every Kenyan's mind,
yes.
What a lot of Kenyans are asking is, where's the catch? You know, we have that trust deficit. Where if government is doing something, either is to hurt us, or there's some people who are going to steal, even if you're doing.
When we use the analogy of an abused people, I don't do it in jest. I'm not doing it like.
It's a good idea, actually.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not doing it like.
But then
and that if we tie this idea again together with the thing that I said earlier about how we're people who have been promised many things to make our lives easier, which have never come through.
The only thing,
the
only thing, you know, say for me and him, but I think I will challenge Daktari and of course Professor that, you know, next time when you come and when we have these kind of issues, then you come also with a bit of, you know, application in other jurisdictions.
Correct.
And it becomes
examples,
you know, so then you can help. Correct. You know, because all what we are doing here is, what is the application, or perhaps maybe the government policy at the moment?
Right.
Is it, to what extent is it going to be the beneficial to the Kenyans? In terms of enhancing, in terms of enhancing,
yes,
in terms of
that what government is doing.
In fact, in terms of enhancing security.
Correct. Yes.
Remember, this country today, someone can just commit a crime and just get away.
Correct.
So how do we check all this? If it's going to help enhance security in the country, then it is something that we want to impress.
Mheshimiwa, what we are asking is public participation. I don't think there's anyone who resists that novel idea.
I completely agree.
But otherwise,
public participation is an integral component of our constitution.
Exactly. It is only that it is not well elaborated.
Exactly.
And we were thinking in Parliament
and
that
like we saying the design.
We need now to define what is public participation.
Exactly. Yes.
What are the perimeters of the public participation?
And all policies must emanate from public opinion.
Yes.
Exactly.
Not from an individual who has just returned from the US, sitting somewhere in government and says, this is how we were doing it in the US.
You know, gentlemen, when you speak about public participation, I remember this forum where the former governor, now the Speaker of the Senate, was speaking, and he said, I hope things have changed. You know, during that time, you call a few of your friends, and then you sit with them, and then they tell you what you want to hear, and then you say there was public participation. So when you talk about defining public participation...
Here's the thing with public participation. It's that it is a characteristic of a democracy. And that the main characteristic of a democracy is that things have to move slowly.
You don't force them.
The cost of getting as many opinions as possible, the cost of consensus, it is high. It is high, and that even one of the things that I said I was going to do when I tweeted that I was going to come here was to ask why was the title of this conversation Democracy at What Cost? Because we would be in the same place, but with unilateral decisions of a monarch telling us that we have to spend on Huduma number, we have to spend on a housing levy. We would be in the same kind of place. But here, because of our constant, and that's why in this matter, I'm a real optimist. Our constant aspirations and practice towards democracy, which has been even more helped by the idea of devolution. Public participation has to happen. That it takes long. You can't hurry it. That if people don't understand a thing, you have to explain
again.
That civic education must be done. If a thing is too hard, it means it has not been unpacked properly.
Don't you realize you're opening avenues for spending more taxpayers' money?
But we agree to have money spent on ourselves to understand where our country is going. That's not a problem at all. The thing is that our monies cannot disappear into somebody's pocket. That's not what we want. But if our money is spent on us, so that we can know what we want, that's never an issue.
Green Shop has just reminded me of something as you comment on this. What happened to the e-citizen and the problem they also had with that system? You remember e-citizen?
Yes.
There's a day you log in. I logged in into the e-system. They have all my details. Why do they need this? So what happened to that system?
I just want to completely disagree with my Honorable Kutuni and Daktari on one basis. They have said that other jurisdictions are doing this. But I want to tell them that you cannot compare the economy of US and the economy of Kenya.
Nigeria is
in
doing
the US,
it. Nigeria is doing it.
Forget about Nigeria, they have very many problems. But you know in Nigeria, you know in the US, let me finish this file, let me finish. You know in the US, there is no American citizen who doesn't have water. In Kenya, we have people who don't have water. So we must first begin by ensuring that Kenyans have the very basic human needs. Then when we have enough money, then we can begin to talk about these kind of things.
The first thing I want to tell Mheshimiwa is that Nigeria have an oil money budget.
Yes.
So we're not comparable even at that level. And that also in America, not everybody has access to clean water.
To clean water, yes.
So we're already in a place. Also in
Nigeria
America, one man is not one vote. So we're already in a place where we are not comparable.
Yes. It goes to the issue of design.
Yes.
Like you were saying, that the design of this should have been better, but also that in fact, like Dr. is saying, that there should have been public participation. Because a lot of these issues, the questions would be raised. And eventually, it's not a problem actually stopping government programs. No. In fact, of course, I mean, I know we haven't spoken about that, but Malaysia stopped their SGR and saved the country 60%. You know, money is running into
I think
yeah. So the questions about the design of this.
I think Mheshimiwa here is an issue of objectivity.
Yes,
it is not an issue of becoming emotional, even on this kind of issue.
But it's necessary.
I think the issue is that let us see the advantages and the disadvantages, and then we arrive into a common position.
Correct.
Saying if it is an issue of public participation that was not undertaken, and then here is this issue of we need proper information as far as citizen of this country is concerned. I think these are the issues that we need to discuss going forward.
And also listen to the courts.
My concern
highlighted some of the issues.
We should move this conversation. We have very few minutes.
My concern has been on the basis that when you want to identify a public problem, you must do some kind of a feedback from the Kenyan people.
Correct.
Where you go and do a barasa somewhere, and you are telling them that the government is offering this and this and this and these services, and Kenyans will tell you that on these services we are experiencing this particular problem.
Correct.
So that is what should inform the policy that the government should develop.
That is correct.
In a nutshell, threats from the likes of Wangusi should not surface if they want this to be taken up. It should not surface.
First of all, as citizens of this country, the Article 1 calls us sovereign.
Exactly.
Who is going to come and threaten us?
And you know,
Wangusi, he did.
another thing, you see, when you want to popularize something, use a better language.
Yes,
correct. See, have the, FM station where people can listen, have, of course, roadshow, all these issues.
And government has
make
changed.
it flower. Make it encouraging.
And
make it attractive to Kenya.
And the thing with this state is that, and that with our government, is that we're very good at public education. We do it well when it comes to health. We do it well when it comes to education. People understand vaccination.
Yes.
You don't have to have gone to school to understand mtoto anaenda kupata chanjo. You don't have to have gone to school to understand that. So even these things, they have to break them down.
So they must be delivered.
So that we understand them completely.
Great. Done.
And the government runs on policies and procedures, not rumor-mongering, threatening people.
and this kind of communication. But you must know that Twitter is becoming mainstream and official way of communicating. Ask Donald Trump.
Of course, that is what I wanted to tell you.
Yes, it's becoming mainstream.
Even when you are communicating, that is how to communicate
nowadays. Yes.
But you communicate, you tweet something that is anchored in policy. You don't tweet something that doesn't exist.
Honestly, I agree.
Mheshimiwa,
you agree with this?
Donald Trump tweets things that are anchored in policy. You don't tweet something that doesn't exist.
Really?
This one is anchored in the policy.
Really?
No.
Okay. We can't discuss about this. We can't discuss
of your stature. It is also important to use the right language. When a senior government official, when he makes a statement, as in you cannot also raise the issues outside. Like someone has taken something. You see, these are, you can imagine what if it is you. Because how you have been talking, it is very important. Because how you've been even raising statement, someone can doubt if you had passed somewhere before you came here. So, and even your eyes is showing it is a bit red. So I am only making,
I have a right to put my comments in the manner
I agree with you. But remember you asked him if he left his brain.
You are my friend. You take more bigger stuff than right.
Okay, let's move on. President Uhuru Kenyatta is probably headed to China right now, right? He's accompanied by by so many government officials, including the government official that who's unofficial in the government, Raila Odinga, to borrow. I mean, just short comments on this, because we want to see if they'll get it, because it's a lot of lobbying, I believe, and they're carrying the media also. It's a lot of lobbying. But Prof, start us off, just brief comments on this. Are we in a position, do we have even the moral standing to start borrowing another 368 billion shillings? Forget the fact that we have about $50 billion, that's about 5 trillion, right? That we should pay. Forget the fact that our children will be paying 100,000 shillings, divide about 6 trillion with about the population 50 million. Do we, should we?
We're actually in a situation as a country now that we have to borrow to pay debts. That's how bad it is. We actually have to borrow to pay debts. I mean, we're very heavily indebted. We are talking about February, March, we're talking about 75% of money raised by KRA going to payments and debts. Yeah, so definitely we are in a bad situation. And I think even on SGR, we needed to have this particular conversation. That same China, why didn't they give the president and the CS money when they were there last year? They demanded a feasibility. So it came to Kenyans as a shock that, oh, so how was SGR funded from Mombasa to Nairobi and then from Nairobi to Naivasha? Where was the feasibility? Yeah, because the Chinese government said they needed a feasibility for the entire, SGR. But having said that, of course, I mean, we know the concerns around the SGR. Of course, I don't want to talk about theft, but we know for a fact that our SGR has been the most costly, really,
in the region and beyond.
No, on Earth it's 3 times.
On Earth,
it is 3 times.
Okay. Excuse me, on Earth?
The average, yes.
On Earth,
there's none. Tell me which country. Put it on the table. I challenge you to bring that data. Okay. Per kilometer, it is 3 times. It's actually 3 times the average cost of SGRs globally, and it's 4 times what was actually projected to be the cost initially. It is more expensive per kilometer than the Ethiopian that is actually electrified. Of course, we gave all sorts of reasons around that. Ours we have a few more wagons and so on. But then, in fact, the good indication is the Malaysian cost. I think Exim Bank must be having a formula, because the Malaysian cost was also 3 times the actual cost, and the current president has been able to chop it to a third.
Okay.
And they're getting that. Yes. So we shouldn't just we're in a catch-22, because we'll not leverage the benefits of the SGR unless it's completed.
Okay.
But on the other hand, we are also saying that are we making the right decisions? Personally,
are some people making the right decisions?
Personally, my advice would be, I mean, if you're in a hole, you stop digging first, and then figure out whether you'll get out by digging sideways or going or actually jumping out. We are in a hole with the SGR. Baba or no Baba, we are in a hole. Okay. And we need to look at the entire economics of SGR. It's been proven that we will not get any returns from the SGR. We will not. The CS is talking about 1.5%. Let them show us the projection. When will we break even?
The deputy president said we will break even before the projected time. We
will not break even with the SGR at all. And yes, of course, now he's making losses, but that's fine. That's okay, because he's not operating at his full capacity. But in fact, we will not break even with SGR. But to get his benefits, of course, we must complete it. Okay. But there's a need to rethink it fundamentally. Uganda stopped theirs because it was over-designed. A very basic question: why are you having more design load than the Kenyan side? Because the trains will be coming from Kenya, and because of that, they were able to already start rationalizing their costs.
Okay.
But us, we don't seem to be having any.
But it was here the other day also to talk about the
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, allow me to be subjective on this matter.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yes, because I want to give credit to Raila. Because Raila just his association with Uhuru, see the way they are talking about the benefit to Nyanza. Yesterday and today they are talking of over 10 billion handshake benefit to Nyanza.
But Mheshimiwa, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be
that
like
is the point. Now, that is why
it shouldn't be like that.
That is why I've said I am going to be subjective.
Okay.
And allow me to talk as a leader from the region where I come from. And if you define politics, it is to control the resources and distribute the same resources. Then it poses a very big question even to leaders whom we've been in this government.
Right.
What you believe? Today, when I go to Eldoret, there is no single interchange. Single interchange. There is no. We've got only one bypass. When you go to Nandi, there is no single bypass, Nandi County. If you go to Elgeyo Marakwet, there is no single bypass in the city, in the town. In fact, the roads that that are being made there are low volume. If you come to Trans Nzoia, the county where I come from, there is no bypass. Now, the question is that, have we been sleeping in the government? Has someone been sleeping in the government? Have we not been mobilizing resources for the people, for our own people, for the benefit of our own people? Raila coming to government or association with Uhuru and the way goodies are going to Nyanza, then it brings the big question again. The other day, farmers were complaining. We were not asking for 5,000 per bag. We were only asking for 2,300. But you had senior government official from even our region, senior government official, telling us that the government is not going to pay 3,200. You better plant maybe diversification, plant avocado.
Okay.
Today, we don't have enough fertilizer. A large-scale farmer is being given 40. A small-scale farmer is given 1. Yet we are here when we are in the system. Someone comes and you see the benefit.
1 year later.
The little money that comes even to the region for the construction of dams, instead of constructing the dams, they've already taken down 7 billion. It's missing. So I want to give credit to Raila. This is real politics, and I talk as a student of politics.
For taking the rail to Nyanza.
And a lot of other things.
Playing economic politics.
Yes. Okay.
Because people are saying we are now seeing the benefit of being in,
wow.
You know,
but
handshake.
Do you remember last year there was a lot of sentiments also from central Kenya? There's
I
a group
agree,
of
but that is why
who complained about not seeing any benefits.
So that is why. So that is why I said allow me to be subjective.
Okay.
On this observation.
All right.
About the issue of the railway.
Okay.
From Naivasha to Kisumu. And
yes.
by the way, there is a question also that is coming up. The right coast? There is a question that is also coming up. People are asking now, why not the railway from Naivasha to Eldoret? Who has not been doing the lobby? Yet we've been in government for the last 76 months. Someone has come into government for 10 months and the railway. Okay. So I think here is the misplaced priority by the leaders who are in government.
I hear you blaming someone. You're blaming someone. You just don't want to mention it.
I haven't mentioned
You are blaming someone.
Who
are you blaming, Mheshimiwa?
No, I haven't blamed anyone.
No, you are blaming someone.
No, I have not. Huh? But I'm only saying,
clever
while other people are focusing on empowering their people and their regions, someone else or some people or some leaders, they are busy accumulating, believing that what I have accumulated, I can use to manipulate my people. I think it is important to empower your people.
All right.
Yes.
I mean, the first thing I want to say is that, I mean, we've not been devolved for a very long time. If you imagine the process of devolution, we were supposed to move from the idea that a person controls resources for a region to the idea of structural disbursements such that regions are able to make some of these decisions. That's number one. Number two, the other thing is that central government still holds very many things, and that central government, this is a central government decision about where the railway goes, etc., etc. How we fight that is now these are the parameters that we need to know. How do we ask questions about why does it make sense to send the railway here and not there? Some of us have asked questions about why the paths of development in this country have always followed the Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu route, vis-a-vis places that have been marginalized. People were getting their first supermarket this year.
Which is a supermarket? You
it was in the newspaper.
Mandera.
Yes.
It was in Mandera.
Yes.
First supermarket.
Yes.
Which is this county that got the first, did the first surgery?
You see what I mean?
Yes.
So there are some places where some people are here talking about not just a railway already went there, and to be fair, that one was built a long time ago under problematic circumstances, and that now there are some people who are on their second iteration of the railway.
Okay.
And that this now raises the conversations about why some areas and not others.
Exactly.
Why can't we awaken some areas and not others? Etc. etc. The other thing that's important about this process is the technicalities, and that on that I would like to fault the media in particular, because this is a complex issue. We've had many things, including that the reason that the thing was so costly is that it had to go gently through the national park, right? And that they had to build tall, high things. Now, you see, you're shaking your head. Why isn't the media explaining that properly to Kenyans? This thing of that we have the costliest SGR on Earth, on the planet.
Yes.
Nobody has even gone to build trains on the moon, and we are here at number 1, right? And so we need to understand all of this benchmarking that we go to do, right? When people went to benchmark, and it's not that people go to look at a train and see is the chair comfortable. No. We need to understand when a train has to go through certain types of geographical whatever, all of the science, and that needs to be explained for Kenyans, for all of us. So even all of us who are not geologists can understand why a train costs a lot of money when it does this, how much does this thing, and that you people are the ones who are failing because you're more interested in what is the cost of democracy, or this money was stolen, and that on that level, that I do agree with him to a certain extent that there's more media traction and traffic and rumor mongering than there is in passing the truth to Kenyans. And so while I don't agree with Mheshimiwa in full, because I feel like with all of these stolen billions, someone would have sued you if it wasn't true.
A feasibility was done actually.
All of these things, like the feasibility, the what, the this, the that, the idea that
and it showed it was not feasible.
The idea that you budget 3 shillings for a thing,
right,
and then you spend 12.
Correct.
But we borrow X. You see what I mean?
Exactly.
And that explaining that is not hard to a people who understand credit because of Lisa and because of Equad. It's not hard to explain.
And those become critical issues when Mheshimiwa are involved. Because if you look at like the borrowing case, for example, Ethiopia also did a rail. How much of Ethiopia's rail was debt? It was 55%. Kenya did a rail. How much of a rail was debt?
107%. To be fair, we have very different land policies between here and Ethiopia.
I'm not talking about land. I'm talking about debt.
And that, yes, but then like part of that debt was incurred in buying back some of this land so that the thing could go through it.
How much did you spend on land? We spent 30 billion, my dear. We did not spend the 276 billion.
Okay.
So don't misrepresent that.
I'm confused in 3 aspects. The first one is that Raila Odinga, even if I am a member of parliament on a Jubilee ticket, but at times I listen to him. And he I was thinking he was making some sense. He was saying Kenya was overborrowing. He was saying the SGR is not viable. It's not good for this country. Today, he's the one who is in China, is negotiating for this country to borrow. So this actually confirms to me that indeed, he is not a Joshua that
Did you have to play politics with this motion?
And there is actually is a Lentulus. No, Lentulus is
I'm the original Joshua.
A Lentulus is the owner of the hardware where Judah bought nails and timber to crucify Jesus. 2, I know for a fact that originally this railway was to go to Malaba through Eldoret. Now, how it has been diverted from Naivasha to Kisumu, is it still rumor mongering? I haven't seen how is that going to be done.
Lobbying.
Now, the last thing that I want to tell my very good friend is a senior member of parliament. He's doing his 2nd term. I don't know, his 2nd term?
Yes.
And he understands the budget making process.
Correct.
Now, the budget of 2018-2019 financial year, which we approved, it never contained the goodies he has said that are being taken to Nyanza.
Correct.
Now, we have a 2019-2020 financial year that is coming. We have already gone through the budget policy statements and the budget settings are being done. I have not seen where these people are saying goodies are going to Nyanza. So is it just rumor mongering, or someone is going against the constitution when it comes to undermining the role of parliament and the role of Kenyans
and
to be able to
a
assist government.
that has been done.
Mheshimiwa, I will only help him that when you are in the opposition, when you get out of government, because the Tanga group is in the opposition. So actually they don't know what is happening in government, what the budget of the government. So we will excuse him for that. But I would want to tell him that for this region,
in the opposition.
So I will only tell him that
gentlemen, we have to end this. It's midnight.
Just 5 seconds.
Yes, 5 seconds. I hope it's 5.
I want Joshua Kutuni to tell Kenyans which member of parliament is in the government. The role of a member of parliament are clearly stipulated in the constitution. There is no member of parliament who is in government and whoever who is in the opposition.
Okay.
There is no. When did you get into government?
No, that's the ideal
situation.
When
did you get into the opposition?
Mheshimiwa, that's the ideal situation.
These are the mongering that I've been telling you about.
That's the ideal.
You see, with the emotions alone, you can, that's the reality.
Mheshimiwa,
so I will help you to be, to join government.
Let's finish this. And ladies and gentlemen, as we finish, I'd like to show you the cartoon of the day. It will be on the screen. So just look at it and give me in 30 seconds. It's midnight. I have to let you go. So that's the cartoon of the day, right? When the poor will have nothing left to eat, but the rich ruling class. That's what we have. It should be on all the screens, if you can see. All right, where do I begin with this? Let me begin with you because we're doing around and just ending this. That's the cartoon of the week. So everyone, brother, and the poor are right there. Your analysis of this cartoon?
It depicts the true picture we are having in this country. I'll give you an example of those fellas who have just joined government, the way you say. The people who have died, who are fighting for them, the baby Pendo who died, all those people whose businesses were destroyed during the economic sabotage. Have you ever heard anything that somebody saying that even if we are going to China to borrow money to do railway from Naivasha to Kisumu, but we need to spare some money to compensate these people because they suffered financial turmoil during economic sabotage and illegal swearing in and fighting and killing. So this is completely what is happening in this country.
All right, Prof, your analysis of this cartoon.
I think I agree 100% with that cartoon. We're here talking about stress. We're talking about levies that are being put on Kenyans and so on. And myself, I'm not even in government, but myself, I was just thinking that, we are going to have depressed rains. Already we've started receiving those requests for helping people who actually don't have anything at all to eat. Yeah, so eventually, when people have nowhere else to run, I think those who are in power, those who are doing these things, we should know that, in fact, this country will be totally unsafe for them and their own children. The rich would actually, the poor would actually eat them.
Literally.
Yes. I think it's very clear when you have corruption everywhere, where you don't construct dams, then you cannot harvest water, then you cannot plant, even in arid areas. Then when farmers cannot access fertilizer and you cannot purchase, you can't give farmers incentives, then they cannot plant and then they go, they're going to die. And then when you go to Turkana, it's a horrible place. If you have water, but what we see is too much politics and corruption, then people will end up, dying. So I think it's a wake-up call to the leadership of this country that there are more pressing issues for the nation, other than what we are seeing. Yes.
All right.
There's wider concern that we've framed a lot of things around tribe, rightfully so, but more and more the issues are becoming about class and about that class access to dignity. People are not even asking for luxuries. People want food in their plates. People want decent public transport. People want healthcare. People want education for their children. People want decent public security. People want basics, ease of doing business, basics. Not an oppressive tax regime, this thing where you have to pay to live like a decent person. The idea of decent work, and this analogy that I keep going back to about us living in a profoundly abusive context. This is the kind of thing that this is depicting. And that there are some people who, because of having money, have bought their way out of having to deal with these things. There are some people who buildings are always painted before they come. The road is always tarmacked, so they have never known even the feeling of a pothole. You know, the idea that you can fly from one place to another means that you don't understand traffic jams. Things will be stopped for you. You know, if you like experience, if a lot of these people just experienced life like Kenyans for just one day, you see every time members of parliament go to jail, they come out saying the jails are so bad. And it's like, were you not aware that this is how your country really is?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So this thing, we need to see a little bit more through each other's eyes. And I think that seeing is the thing that can spur us to more action. And that the other thing we need is profound empathy.
Okay.
Profound empathy, and not just empathy for Woye. We're tired of being Woyed. We want action, we want things to move, and they can. They can. So all these vanishing, voodoo, or disappearing coins can be spent in putting food in everybody's plate, so that now we can all call one another bro. See to what TV.
Great way to put it, and
a
good place to end the show. and just before I do the final part of the show, Mheshimiwa Kutuny, David Mayo has just tweeted something here. I wish I had the projection, I would show you that. But he's tweeted about the Kenha unveiling plan to ease traffic congestion in Eldoret. This is the bypass plan. So he just tweeted and told me to make you aware that Kenha has actually released 5.1 billion and 539 million will be used to compensate the people of Eldoret.
That's why I'm saying all what we are seeing there is a bypass. We don't have interchanges.
Okay.
So the bypass is not going to solve the traffic problem in Eldoret town. So I want to inform Mr. Mayo,
David,
yes, that also, you know, trying to cover up, it is wrong. And then two, on the issue of compensation, I don't want to be a whistleblower, but we are aware that the people, you know, as the usual characters, they have already gone and taken the land.
Okay, waiting for compensation.
So compensation will go to the wrong people.
Let me remind them that a few hours yesterday, because we're already at midnight, we saw Sozori just being released from. Because of allegations of compensation that were not right. So no fear, so long as you're a whistleblower. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's do the final part of the show. And before, we're talking about Deputy President William Ruto. Before he joined the ODM party, he was the Secretary General for KANU, having been out in the cold for about 5 years following the defeat of President Kenyatta in the 2002 general election. An opportune moment in 2007, right before the general election, welcomed Ruto into ODM. Now, during the burial of the former Interior CS, Joseph Ole Nkaissery, Ruto said he was persuaded to join ODM by Nkaissery. He will then begin at the top of the party. In fact, in the disputed 2007 general election, Ruto was the face of that resistance. He was one of the more vocal leaders who spoke against the decision of the defunct Electoral Commission of Kenya when Mwai Kibaki was awarded the certificate of election as the president. Now, Ruto was a member of the Pentagon. That was the topmost decision-making organ of the Orange Democratic Movement. He was one of the biggest political allies of Raila Odinga, but the same election, that one that saw him back Raila, would also be the election that would separate them. And Ruto has said before that during the formation of the Grand Coalition government, he was promised the position of the Deputy Prime Minister, which eventually went to Musalia Mudavadi. When he was suspended following the maize scandal, he broke ranks completely with Raila Odinga, and their differences, you must remember, began due to the stand taken by Raila on the Mao eviction. And my friend Joshua Kutuny here at that time said the rain comes from the tree. I remember very well. And the indictment of the ICC sealed their fate. And from then on, the two friends who did everything to defend the other don't see eye to eye, at least politically or political ideologies. In 2012, Ruto ditched ODM for URP, which later joined TNA. The rest is history. A good place to end tonight's show. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, lady, for coming and sharing your perspective. This is the latest that we've cleared the show. And thanks for the night team right here for joining us. Have a good night. Mao, sorry for another day. Thank you. We can go back to the conversation. See you next week on Tuesday. Remember, I start from 9 p.m. all the way to midnight as today. Next week on Tuesday. Good night, or is it good morning?